Have you ever noticed that when you try and make positive changes to your health, not everyone around you is happy about it? My name's Hayley, I'm the Food Ninja, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you about the 4 different types of saboteurs that you might come across on your journey towards healthy as fuck. So, when you make changes to your health, first of all, you've got to get comfortable with changing, right? But also, on top of that, you've then got to think about how the people around you are going to react and respond. And it's a super important thing that a lot of people overlook, because unless you're David fucking Goggins with a will of iron, you cannot make changes alone. You need the support and the help and the guidance of people around you. So that is super important. So why do people do this? They do it because if you think about each group that you belong to, so you belong to a family, you belong to a work environment, you belong to your business, you belong to a sports club, you belong to a group of school friends, for example. You fulfill a role within that group. And when you start to change, maybe you don't fulfill that role anymore. For example, I've got a client who always referred to herself as the fat one in her group, right? So by her changing her behaviours and getting healthier, some of her friends weren't that supportive, because guess what? If you're not the fat one in your group anymore, who is going to be? It's going to be someone else, right? Maybe you were the person who was the last one standing, was always pissed out of your head all the time. Maybe you are the person who is a baker, right? And people come to you for comfort food and all that kind of stuff. And actually you're not going to be able to fulfill that role anymore. So that's what makes people feel uncomfortable. So now that we know why people do that, I'm going to tell you the 4 different types. But first, before I do that, if you're new here, if you're a business owner, and if you want to learn how to make your health the biggest asset in your business, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and I will sort you right out. Right, okay, so let's get started. Number one, I'm going to call them Fun Time Mandy, or maybe Fun Time Gary if it's a male, right? So this is your friend that always wants to go out and do something related to alcohol, right? So they want to go down the pub, they want to get pissed out of their head, they don't want to meet you out in the day unless it's for an all-dayer, right? That's the person who, when you go down the pub and you say, do you know what, I'm going to get a Diet Coke, or I'm going to have a drink of water in between my pints or whatever, they're always the person who's like, oh my God, you're so boring. Like, what the fuck kind of diet is this? Why can't you even have a pint? Like, is it worth it? You know, they are basically calling you out and being boring, taking the piss out of you because you're having a Diet Coke, right? They are trying to sabotage your efforts. Why are they doing that? Well, maybe for them, you know, that going out and drinking is something that they look forward to every weekend, or even if they do it in the week. We might find out, which is normally the case, speaking from experience, Fun Time Mandy and Fun Time Gary, they're not actually that fun. They're actually a bit fucking depressed, because all they do is they drink throughout the week because they've got nothing else to do. They get really pissed at the weekend. They feel shit on Monday to Friday because they're dealing with a massive hangover. So to have you in their face talking about how amazing you feel and all these positive changes you've made, that makes them really examine their behaviour, right? And that makes them feel uncomfortable. So that is why Gary and Mandy are not really trying to do it on purpose, but your behaviours are confronting the way that they feel and making them feel uncomfortable. So how do you resolve it? It's a difficult conversation to have, right? And I've been in this position myself as well. You can have a conversation with them and you can talk about how now your priorities have shifted and now this is important to you. Ultimately though, the best thing to do is to start to spend more time with friends who are more aligned to your new goals and beliefs and behaviours, right? That's exactly what I did in my situation. I joined CrossFit, and not so much the CrossFit, but really the social side, right? And I'm going to make myself look like a right knob here, right? Because when I agreed to go out with my CrossFit friends, we went to the cinema, and then went for a meal, and then went home. And then the next day they were like, oh, let's meet for breakfast and then we'll go paddleboarding. I'm not joking. I did not realise that you could socialise without alcohol. That's how much of a knob I was, right? But I soon realised that spending time with these people who were more aligned with my health goals, I was actually having a really good time without the alcohol. So I'm not saying that you should get rid of all your friends like Funtime Gary and Funtime Mandy. Have a conversation with them. If they support you, that's great, spend time with them. If they don't support you, then I would probably just spend a little less time with them and a little more time with people who are more supportive and aligned with your goals, basically. So that's Funtime Gary / Mandy, whatever. So we're on to saboteur number 2. So this is a personal story from me. Saboteur number 2 is, I'm going to call him Food Shamer Steve, okay? Not being sexist, this is normally a man because women are more aligned or more kind of submerged in the diet culture, so they tend not to food shame. But this is something from my personal experience. So I used to work in the corporate world. I was an IT consultant, and that meant I was a contractor, so I would go from place to place, office to office, rocking up. I was a clean eating wanker at the time, right? So I would rock up with my sets of Tupperware. I would put it all in the fridge. I would obviously heat up my broccoli and rice and stuff. But I wasn't kind of super strict, so sometimes I would eat the odd bag of crisps, whatever. So Food Shamer Steve is the person who is in your office who's like, oh my God, like, why is your food different? Like, what shit are you eating now? What's that rabbit food? Are you eating green stuff? Why are you like heating up your food in the microwave? Your food smells weird. Why do you eat that shit? Are you not allowed to eat normal food on your diet? Your Tupperware is taking up all the space in the fucking fridge, right? Anything to single you out for your food choices. I mean, God forbid if I ate something that was, if there was a cake run, for example, or someone's birthday, and I might have like a small square of brownie or something. Fucking hell, I thought you were on a diet. Like, what are you eating that for? So, no win there. Kind of shamed for eating, quote, good food, shamed for eating non-diet food, right? He would even do things like eat a packet of crisps in the office, but make loads, so really rustle the crisp packet, right? So obviously I'm at my desk, I would look up from my desk, oh, look out, here comes the food Nazi, right? There's a lot of that kind of food shaming stuff going on. I don't know if you have been in an office environment. Hopefully, if you're a business owner, you're not cultivating that kind of environment in your business. But why does Steve do that? Okay, so Steve is generally not very healthy. Steve is probably a little bit stressed out, probably heading for burnout. His motivation's at an all-time low. Maybe he's doing a job that he doesn't really like. Maybe he's just really stressed out. But basically what is being confronted for Steve there is someone in his face with their shit together, being kind of healthy and competent in their work and all that kind of stuff. So what was going on there is Steve is trying to undermine you, okay? So Steve feels a bit threatened. Steve feels a bit kind of like, I probably haven't got the motivation to do that. I feel uncomfortable. This is in a work environment. Maybe she's going to be perceived as having her shit together more than me because she's got a good diet. So let's try and undermine that, right? This is a difficult one to resolve. And the way that I resolved it, because there's no point in having a conversation about it, because Steve, you know, that's the fodder that Steve wants, to have a conversation about it in an open office environment so that he can carry on with his food shaming, essentially. So how did I resolve that? I actually did have a conversation in the open office environment, because it just carried on and on and on. And he was like, why do you eat that shit rabbit food? So I basically just the one day said, I eat this because this is really good food for my brain. I want to be 100% on it when I'm at work. I care about my job and what I'm doing. Eating this good food allows me to have better focus, better productivity, more mental clarity, and I'm making better decisions on a day-to-day basis. As you can imagine, that kind of did not go down very well with Steve, but by this time I kind of knew that Steve and I weren't going to be friends, so I was all right with it. So if you find yourself in that environment, it might just be that you unfortunately have to amplify the way that Steve is feeling in order to kind of snap him out of doing that. So that's number 2. So number 3, we're going to start talking about number 3, and yes, I've gone there. Number 3 is a Karen. So Karen, I'm going to call her Karen the educator. We all know a Karen, don't we? Particularly in this day and age. Karen gets her nutrition advice from Facebook and fucking Netflix documentaries, okay? So if whatever diet you've been on, Karen has been on it, right? Not very successfully, because Karen is not maintaining a healthy weight. But she's been on a diet for 20 or 30 years. She knows everything about every diet, and she's probably doing Slimming fucking World as we speak. She might even be a consultant for Slimming World, okay? I've got a brilliant example of a Karen. Karen will basically piss on your chips about any diet that you're doing, and whatever diet she's indoctrinated with at the time, that will be the best diet to do. So I have got a client, I'm not going to tell you what she does because the lady that I'm going to talk about is one of her clients. My client had a Karen as a client. My client was losing a lot of weight, and Karen says to her, wow, like, how are you losing all of this weight? And my client said, I'm working with a nutritionist. We started off quite simple. I'm just logging some food. Oh, are you counting calories? Karen says, and my client says, well, yes, because if you want to lose fat, you need to know how many calories you're eating, because it's an energy balance type thing. Karen's like, and my client says, and then she asks me to keep an eye on my protein. Oh, says Karen, she's asking you to track your macros. And my client says, yes, that's right, but only my calories and my protein. It's all pretty simple. Oh, that's why it's working, says Karen. Macros are a fad diet, don't you know? Lots of nutritionists are doing that at the moment. It's a bit of a fad because macros have only just been invented. I'm going to let that sink in. Macros have only just been invented, says Karen. So, Karen, I didn't know what to say when my client told me this. So, actually, we discovered macros in the 50s, Karen, and we didn't invent them. They are biochemical compounds. So I guess, in a science perspective, they're quite new because, physics and chemistry is actually quite old compared to biology and nutrition science, which is quite young. So Karen, you're not wrong. It's quite new, but it's not a fad and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So what can we do with a Karen? So, I would love to educate all of the Karens of the world. And early on in my career, I tried to do that. I would get in every fucking Facebook fight going about what was going on and trying to dispute Karen's keto and paleo and raspberry ketones and Cambridge diet and Slimming fucking World and Weight Watchers and all of these things. Karen does not want to be educated. Karen wants to be part of the little cult that she's with right now, okay? So You can try and educate Karen, but most of the time, the best way to deal with a Karen is just to keep doing what you're doing and keep losing weight. That's what my client did. Karen comes to her for an appointment every 2 weeks and my client's getting smaller and smaller. So, you know, if you can't educate Karen, then leave Karen be, because there's no hope for Karen. So that's number 3. So now we move on to, I've left the most difficult one till last. Actually, before we talk about the last one, if so far you've recognised any of these types of people, please drop a comment and let me know which type it was and how you dealt with it, because I love to collect these little stories to help with my clients, because in fact we do a bit of role play, me and my clients, when we come up against people like this, and we practice conversations that we might have with them. So if you recognise any of these people, drop a little comment below and let me know. So we're going to go with the last one. The last one, number 4 of the saboteurs that you may come across when you're trying to get healthy as fuck. This is the most difficult one. I've left till last. So number 4, babe, is the person that you love the most and the person that loves you. Babe is an enabler, okay? They don't do it on purpose, but you are making babe feel uncomfortable. So the kind of things that babe might say to you is like, oh babe, I know you're on a diet, but can we get a pizza tonight? I really want to cuddle up with you. I really want to do like Netflix and chill, or maybe just Netflix and Ben and Jerry's, right? Or once you start to, your healthy behaviours start to escalate, maybe you go out for a nice long walk on a Sunday morning. Oh babe, remember when we used to stay in bed all Sunday morning? I really miss doing that with you. Like that, I really want to do that with you again. I feel like we're drifting apart. All of that kind of stuff, right? They are not doing it on purpose. You are making them feel uncomfortable. There are a million things running through babe's head right now, right? And they are all to do with, what if my other half gets thinner? Why do they want to get skinnier and more attractive to the opposite sex? Are they going to run off with someone? Maybe they're going to meet someone at their new running club. Maybe I'm not good enough for them anymore. Why do they want to make these changes, right? So, babe, like I said, is a difficult one to deal with because you're with them all the time. It might not be your other half. It could be your mum or your nan. You know, you could be going to your nan's house. Oh, you look thin, love, while stuffing loads of penguin biscuits into your pockets, making you have another slice of cake, yeah? That is what babe does. So, how do you deal with babe? It has to be reassurance. So, the good thing about babe is if you can convince them, first of all, they love you, right? So they want you to be happy. If you can tell them some really compelling reasons why you need to make these changes to your health, that should be enough to get them to support you, okay? Even more, or even better than that, if you can get them to join in. I'm not saying, you know, maybe they don't want to lose weight or they don't need to lose weight, but maybe you can encourage them to come out for a walk with you, you know, plan it, make an event of it, plan to go somewhere really nice and have a nice coffee, and or maybe like buy some bikes and do biking together, discover new recipes together that are healthier, like bring babe along with you on your journey, right? So explain to babe why it's super important to you. If they love you, they should understand and support you. And second of all, tell them, reassure them that you're doing it to be the best version of yourself. I fucking hate that, it's cheesy, but it's true, right? And tell them that you want them to feel great as well, and you'd love to have some common hobbies together so that you can spend even more time together. If you're fitter and you're healthier, you've got more energy, the time that you spend together is going to be much more enjoyable. So that's it. Those are the 4 types of people that you might meet who are trying to sabotage your efforts. So we've got Fun Time Gary and Mandy, we've got Food Shamer Steve, we've got Karen, and we've got Babe. So if you recognise any of those, let me know. That's it for today. If you've enjoyed this video, or you know that someone else who might get some benefit from it, please hit share, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you here next week for more knowledge bombs. Oh shit. Take that bit out.